rang that bell?
We did.
Can't you read?
Read what?
The notice.
What notice?
It's on the door, as plain as the nose on my face. Oh, oh, oh.
Bell out of order. Please knock.
Well, that's more like it. Now, state your business.
We want to see the wizard.
The wizard? But nobody can see the Great Oz. Nobody's ever seen the Great Oz. Even I've never seen him.
Well, then, how do you know there is one?
Because I don't. You're wasting my time.
All right, hey, welcome to Operation End Times. I'm your Jedi warrior for Jesus, Ben Hillestead. This is my Synchronicity of the Ages series, part 4, entitled Enoch. Tick-tock goes the clock. What you were looking at was a scene from The Wizard of Oz. It's kind of interesting because Dorothy and her friends had finally reached the Emerald City, and there's all sorts of spiritual implications. The bell is out of order, but they end up knocking, and the gatekeeper, dude's got a killer stash, but he basically isn't going to let him in for ringing the bell. But when they knock, he's letting them in, but they want to see the wizard, and he's like, man, nobody sees the wizard. And that's kind of interesting. In our Synchronicity series, I've kind of brought that up. Like, when a planet is in a synchronous orbit with Earth, like the moon, we only see one face of the moon. We never see the other side of the moon. It's not a dark side, because that side gets sun, but we only see one face. But when it comes to God, there's something about seeing God face to face, or not being able to see him face to face, because that's what was going on with Moses out there in the desert. Is the God he was talking to said, you can't look at my face, I'm going to put my hand over your eyes, and then you can take a quick peek at my backside. And there's other places in the Bible where it says you cannot look at the face of God and live. But, knock, knock, when you're at the door, if somebody opens the door, you're going to be looking at them face to face, And, Jesus, when he gave the Sermon on the Mount, where he gave us the Lord's Prayer and, a whole bunch of other stuff, in Matthew 7:7, he gives kind of like a commandment where he says, knock and it shall be opened, seek and you shall find, ask and it will be answered. And that doesn't sound like a God that's about keeping secrets, and mysteries, like the Illuminati, when they're like, hey, it's all secret stuff, That right there is a sign that surely they're following some kind of a shadow path and not the truth and the light. But the synchronicity of the ages, surely has something to do with the synchronicity, I'm probably not even saying it right, but of our solar system and the planets in it. There was a crop circle that was about 50 miles south of where I live, down south of Hollister, and I still have a picture of the crop circle. I'll see if I can somehow put a link to it or whatever, but they already plowed it under. They didn't want people kind of looking at it, but it was like the number 192 repeating. At first I thought it only repeated twice, so I kind of came up with, hey, 192 twice, ties into a frequency, being sent forth, but it was shown that it actually said 192 5 times, which equals 960, which is part of the synchronicity or the synchronous orbital pattern that Venus has with Earth, that every 960 years it's 180 degrees out, something like that. But that was part of my video yesterday, as I put a link into the orbital resonance page on Wikipedia, and if you go check that out, you'll see that 960, and it comes into play because David, his kingdom either started, I think it was, in 962 or 960 BC, which is once again that synchronous reflection of the ages, because time, when you're on the eternal model, time, past, present, future, doesn't mean anything. And in that same sermon by Jesus on the Mount, he pretty much is talking about time, because he says, don't be worrying about tomorrow, because there's enough evil here today for you to take care of. And he says, don't worry about what you're going to eat or what clothes you're going to put on your back, neither, because God will take care of you. But Jesus was laying the foundations of a mental mindset for preparing the way, your mind, to be a fertile field and to be a conduit to tap into the divine circuitry of the electro city. But a lot of people are choosing to go into the synchronicity, the sin city. What's kind of interesting is Enoch. Knock, knock. Who's there? Enoch. Enoch, the book of Enoch. Enoch was on the planet for 365 years. There's 365 days in a year. So Enoch's very life was some kind of synchronous event. Singularity, convergence, that's the word. Today on Nine she has a video up there, I'll link that in, on how everything's converging in January of 2014, the Jewish calendar and the Gentile calendar, etc., etc. You got to kind of watch her stuff because she's neck deep into that stuff, but it's very interesting, and I do believe she's onto something. But we are surely living at a time when things are going to converge. So I'll give you an example of it. See this number 12, that's Tom Brady. But I was kind of doing research on knocking and doors, but it takes you to Acts 12, my friends. And that's a story of Peter. St. Peter, who is at the gates of heaven. My grandfather used to have a dream where he'd come down crying in the morning. He'd say, I went to heaven and St. Peter was at the gate and I was knocking and I said, please let me in. And St. Peter was saying, I can't let you in. And my grandfather would be in tears in the morning because of it. But Peter was given the keys to the gates of heaven. But Peter, at the time, in Acts 12, he was in a prison, and he was probably was about to be killed by Herod. Herod, the rod, or the door, the play on words, the synchronicity of the whole thing. But basically what happened was at midnight, at the midnight hour, the number 12, a light shone, and the chains were released, and Peter walked out of prison. Now, prison contains the word Orion and the word ison. So a brilliant light shone, and you know what? We are in the prison, the prism, the ison tail, and or what was left of the comet when it came back off of the sun. Nobody truly knows exactly what and where is going on, but for the next week or so, I think through the month of January, we are going through ison, my friends. And I showed you the connection with the Nostradamus picture, where the one guy's video where he showed it was the ison V and how everything's converging. Once again, convergence, synchronicity. But the bands were loosened for Peter, and in the book of Job it says, who can loosen the bands of Orion? But knocking is an action of faith. It's stepping out of the boat, man. It's confronting, it's changing reality. It's making a singularity. And, singularities could be happening, just, I'm going to mention it, but like a singularity is when a computer can think like a human or is actually smarter than us. Movies like The Terminator, where it was the Skynet all of a sudden came online and robots were controlling the world, Well, you know what? I saw a commercial for IBM and Watson saying how smart it is and they can do all the thinking, so surely we might have passed that singularity where there's a robot or a computer that is more intelligent than us, if that is actually possible. But, Enoch had a synchronous life, lived 365 years, which is the number of days. That's a multiplier of 10. Or it's 365 times 365. I didn't quite nail down the math there, but you can see how 365 days and 365 years, that's a multiplier, But what happened to Enoch is he was pleasing God. His mind was a fertile field, and God, the truth and the knowledge that Enoch was walking in gave him power. But he was translated, which sounds like transfiguring or transforming, just like Jesus and Moses and Elijah on the mountain, Mount Hermon. But I think that once again points to, the translating of Enoch points to the ages that we're at, which is, once again, Peter, this light, dropped the bands, his chains, and allowed him to walk out of the prison, the ison, and that's the problem, my friends, is there's a web, that a lot of us are trapped in, the deceptions, especially nowadays, no matter which direction you look, everything's as fake as a $3 bill. The economy, healthcare, religion, whatever, So, Dorothy knocked at the door. Jesus says, knock, and I'll open it. And he says, when I knock, open the door too. But you couldn't look at Oz, and there's this God in the Old Testament that Moses is dealing with that you can't look at his face. But Jesus, it sure sounds like you can look at his face. The Emerald City, did open the door. What I was going to say is I was looking at it was a part of the Sermon on the Mount, I do believe. Sorry, I got to finish up here, but it was Jesus kind of saying, hey man, obey the commandments, but if you have anger towards your brother, you're in danger. And the word for danger is enochos, Enoch, knocking on heaven's door when you're in danger. But it says if you call a man raka, empty-headed, like you got nothing inside of you, which is the Hebrew word 4469. See, the numbers all add up there. You're in danger of the council, which is the Sanhedrin, which contains Orion and the word sin, like synchronicity, and it's a council of men. But if you call a person a fool, you're in danger, inochos, of, and for the word for fool comes from a base word which means mysterious, secret counsels. So if you're calling somebody a fool, evil, or godless, that you're in danger, inochos, of hellfire yourself. So that's just something to ponder, my friends, because we are living in the age, the synchronicity of the ages, and it's all about knocking, man. Knocking some tables over, knocking on heaven's door, and letting the light burst forth. Alright, hey, I'm Ben Hellestead, your Jedi warrior for Jesus. This is the Synchronicity of the Ages, Part 4. Hi. I knock. That's what you gotta make sure you're saying. Not who's knocking, I'm knocking. That's right. It's time to be knocking people right in the head, man, to wake up. Alright, hey, may God bless you for watching this video. There's much more to come, my friends. Much more information to put out there. Alright, hey. Think positive.